everyone, Alex here again, ready to bring you another Guild Wars Corner. And I did not forget about you guys. It's just things have been pretty busy lately, and got a job interview actually going on tomorrow, so I'm getting ready for that. So things have been pretty busy. Also had family come in over this weekend, and thankfully outside of that, been able to get some Guild Wars in. And in the last week or so, I've been trying to tackle some of the Mad King's missions, Mad King Thorn's missions, and we got some footage here, me trying to do the Mausoleum mission, and these missions are pretty tough. Well, the Mausoleum one is. The heirlooms from the king, that's fairly easy, fairly straightforward. But this one here can be pretty brutal, and in this case, the one I'm using it with the Mesmer, didn't come out very well. I'm sure there's things that can be done with the build, but the other reason is that the Mesmer, Celia here, doesn't have nearly the range of heroes that I had with my Necromancer Caitlyn. And that's kind of an issue because some of the heroes are actually henches, and they're a couple lower levels below where I need them to be, level 20, which would be really nice. So it made it pretty difficult. With my Necromancer, however, with Caitlyn, I did have enough heroes to fill out a full team list, at least a team of 6 coming out from the Maguma Jungle. And I was able to do that. I was able to complete the mission with her, but with Celia, that's not been the case. So that didn't work out too well. But anyways, I got the mission done on the Necro, so I'm pretty happy with that. And there's this friggin' rock here that you keep climbing up this rock. It's annoying. But got the mission done with the Necromancer, but I'm going to kind of call it good there. With everyone else, I'm like, I'll worry about it next year. Give me something to do next year. I also did, again, the heirlooms of the king, and I also did the Etten one out in Perdition Rock in the Fire Island chain, and that was pretty good. I got some footage coming up here in a little bit later that you'll see, and it was pretty well. It went pretty well actually, and it was pretty good. So that one was pretty nice. Now, a lot of things have been going on in Guild Wars, even though I've been kind of in and out. Although I've been playing a lot recently, last 2 days, not just these missions here, but I've been deep diving into Nightfall with my Necromancer, and it's been a lot of fun getting heroes, getting them up to speed, and getting the missions done for that. I got a long ways to go, which is fine. I mean, that gives me plenty of time to play the game, take it my own pace, not rush through it, and really kind of enjoy it. And I've been doing that with my Necromancer, Caitlyn, who's my main. And one of the reasons I like playing the Necromancer is it's a lot of fun. They can do both defense and offense. They can be both support and also be a pretty offensive powerhouse. They had some very interesting play mechanics, like being with Minion Master. And the other reason is their armor just looks really nice. It looks really, maybe I got a goth streak or something inside me, but I think it's really, really nice. Some of the armor for some of the other classes, they look good. I'm not going to say they're terrible, but I'm like trying to find a good monk armor that I've been trying to like. I think I've kind of closed in on one, but we'll see. But some of the armors for some of the other classes, I'm okay, I'll find one that I like. But almost all the armors for the Necro I like a lot. I've not found a Necro armor I've not liked yet so far. So that's been kind of going on. I didn't get any footage of Nightfall, trying to go through Nightfall yet. I'm going to do that a little bit later. For one of the reasons I just keep forgetting to turn frats on when I play Nightfall, and next thing I'm playing like 4 or 5 hours or something like that, and really having a good time. But I gotta keep remembering to turn on the bloody fraps program and kind of go from there. Now, in Guild Wars Guru, I don't know how many of you go to Guild Wars Guru, but it was one of the websites that was really kind of a focal point for Guild Wars back in the day, and it's been there since I think beta actually for Guild Wars, and it used to be the real hub, and still is in many ways, but it also kind of shows it's lost a lot of activity, frankly not any fault of its own, but just for the fact that Guild Wars is kind of an older game, and a lot of people have moved on, and that's reflected in the forum. But there was a good post that came up, I believe yesterday. There was a major restructuring at NCSoft, of course NCSoft being the parent company of ArenaNet, who owns the Guild Wars franchise. But apparently there have been a lot of employees that got the axe at NCSoft, subsidiaries and affiliates. One of the big ones was the company for, I believe, WildStar and a few others. However, ArenaNet got spared the axe, which means the Guild Wars as a franchise, not necessarily Guild Wars 1, but Guild Wars as a franchise, still is in the good graces of NCSoft. But it looks like NCSoft has been bleeding cash from some of their other subsidiaries, because the MMO market, the MMO industry, it's a tough industry, even in video games, which can be a pretty tough industry. It's a massive investment up front, and you get an initial surge. Again, every MMO always does a really big initial surge, and then it tapers off, and it gets tapered off really severely. Thankfully, Guild Wars 1 didn't fall into that as badly. Again, there was some taper off, but they were always able to kind of keep it going with new expansion, new features. People kept coming back. It really was a competitor to World of Warcraft in many, many ways. Guild Wars 2 is having a problem because there is no expansion per se, and a lot of people have just been demanding an expansion for World of Warcraft. I'm sorry, for Guild Wars 2. For Guild Wars 2. And because of the whole concept for the living story is predicated on, frankly, there is no expansion pack, no major expansion pack to really, bring a lot of content all at once. It's kind of this slow-going, ongoing development of storyline content. Then, a lot of people don't get the interest of coming back to Guild Wars 2 as they would with an expansion pack, and I think that's been kind of an issue with a lot of the player base for Guild Wars 2. Now, Guild Wars 2 has been very, very successful in China. Its China release was great, but it also begs the question, is it going to have the same situation in China that it had here in North America and Europe, where you did have a large interest at first and then it peters down? That's going to be wait and see. We're going to have to see what China comes to the table with. I think the situation there is going to be more the same that we saw in North America, but a lot of it just hinges on the gem store. The gem store in Guild Wars 2 is going to be critical. Now, back here in Guild Wars 1, again, we're put out to pasture in many, many ways. However, the Guild Wars 1, the software, the server-side software is run on the Guild Wars 2 server. So as long as Guild Wars 2 is doing okay, Guild Wars 1 is going to be around. So that's the nice thing. But going back to the original point, which was the layoffs at NCSoft, it looks like at this point, ArenaNet's in the clear, but they got to stay there. They got to be a viable, business product, or have a viable revenue stream coming in, and hopefully Guild Wars 2 will do that. Of course, we would love to see them really come back to Guild Wars and try and get things going here, but it helps to be realistic in this sense that Guild Wars 1, as far as ArenaNet is concerned, is frankly no more. It's in the background. They'll get some money from it, from costumes and paint and Zoom line storage panes and things like that. They'll probably get some money there, but they have put all their eggs again into the Guild Wars 2 basket, which I had mentioned before. One other interesting thing that came out from the Guild Wars Guru website about this post about what had happened at ArenaNet is also the fact that the lead developer, or the chief developer for Guild Wars 2, she was brought in from Microsoft, had worked on a lot of the Kinect games. Again, not sure how Kinect ties into MMORPGs, but alright, we'll go from there. But the other thing that really came out is that she never played Guild Wars 1 at all. She had no concept, no basis of where Guild Wars had come from. Now, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. One of the things is that, unfortunately, of course, how we feel about Guild Wars 1 is that we think, I particularly think that it is still one of the best games on the market today, and still one of the most unique games that were developed in the MMO space. But this lady, unfortunately, I forgot her name, didn't experience Guild Wars 1. But because that Guild Wars 2 was so far off the reservation to begin with, it's probably not that big a deal from a design standpoint that she didn't play Guild Wars 1. Of course, it'd be nice for us if she understood the strengths and the advantages of Guild Wars 1, because that is, for us, where the real gameplay resides, and the larger amount of gameplay of customization than you would see in Guild Wars 2. But unfortunately, that is not the case. So, deep down, of course, I always hope that ArenaNet will come back to Guild Wars and give it some more love. But again, being realistic, that is just not going to be the case unless there is a very real business case that can be made for coming back to Guild Wars 1. Enhancing its gameplay, or driving it forward, or adding new content. I really think there could be a really good case for it. With the amount of enjoyment I'm getting out of Nightfall, the amount of content, the PvP, I think Guild Wars can really stand on its own more as a PvP game than as a PvE game. And I made that mention before in a previous episode. If ArenaNet had approached, or does approach, or could approach in the future, Guild Wars more along the lines of a MOBA, like Dota 2 or League of Legends, and fashions their design along that axis rather than the axis of an MMORPG like World of Warcraft, because they've already done that with Guild Wars 2, then I think there could be a very real future for Guild Wars. Again, it'll be a little bit different than what we've experienced, but I think it's still there. So, one of the ideas that I had for ArenaNet, if they really want to come back, is to, one, recognize a lot of the technical limitations. Again, this is a 10-year-old game now at this point. The development tools are probably obsolete. Most of the people at ArenaNet that had worked on Guild Wars are gone. I think a lot of people that know the server code in depth and the development tools in depth may not be there anymore. So they'll be starting over anyways, coming back to Guild Wars. And maybe that's the approach they need to take. So one of the important things with Guild Wars, again, the graphics are really good, but they are starting to show their age a little bit in comparison to the new stuff that's come out. However, if ArenaNet could approach Guild Wars and say, you know what, we're going to do a new game that has an updated rendering engine, but focuses on Guild Wars as a PvP game. So actually have a separate program, say Guild Wars Arena, that's fired up, strictly a PvP game, which is kind of the PvP character generation from Guild Wars. And what it would do is it would still pull the same information from the server that Guild Wars 1 does, but it would render it in a new engine, in a new game, strictly as a PvP and strictly as a MOBA. Of course, not with the concept of like Dota 2 or League of Legends without the creeps running around on towers or whatever, but more along the lines of a battle arena. Okay, like a GVG 8v8 or random arenas 4v4, and to just have a strict game with new graphics, updated graphics, new types of armor, but still uses the Guild Wars 1 server structure and able to pull skills and things like that from the server. So in order to gain more skills with your character in Guild Wars Arena, it would entice people to either do one of two things: either go back and buy the original Guild Wars and get it through PvE and through the normal routes that we do, or play the PvP portion of Guild Wars Arena and go through Priest of Balthazar and unlock skills that way. So there's two modes that they could do that, and I think that would be more of a viable business case than coming back strictly to Guild Wars and just adding more and more content, because I think that would actually be harder for ArenaNet to do now, because time has moved on, employees have moved on. I think a lot of people that were familiar with the development tools and also making the business case to add more content when frankly most of the population has departed anyways is going to be a very tough sell. But if you come back and say, hey, you know what, we can salvage some things from Guild Wars, we can make a new game, tie it in, new engine, update the graphics, and also kind of spur, maybe some more interest back into Guild Wars 1 that, can keep some sales going, keep the environment going, keep the population going, and go from there without cannibalizing Guild Wars 2, which that's a very real fear, is that, if they put more development into Guild Wars 1, people will leave Guild Wars 2 and come back to Guild Wars 1, which they don't want to do. They don't want to cannibalize Guild Wars 2 and cannibalize their product, but rather you want to attract a new crowd that's outside of Guild Wars 2. That's more of a PvP-centric crowd, which again, Guild Wars 1 was developed as both a PvE and a PvP game, but more focused at first in prophecies and in factions was on PvP, and I think that's the thing ArenaNet had lost sight on when they decided to switch tactics and go after the World of Warcraft crowd, which was frankly a larger crowd at that time. But what has changed is the multiplayer Battle Arena crowd, people from World of Tanks or War Thunder or Dota 2 or League of Legends that have sprouted up since then, gives a new market that I think ArenaNet can tap into. And Guild Wars 1 can make an easy bridge extension to that, because a lot of the gameplay mechanics, a lot of the structure is already there. It just needs a new coat of paint, and the best way to do that is actually create a new program, new executable with a new rendering engine, but still uses the same server code, same server structure, same server calls, but it just renders it in a much more modern fashion than you would see in Guild Wars 1. Well, even though Guild Wars 1 is still quite nice to look at, but the game, again, I'm calling it Guild Wars Arena, would be more focused on strictly the PvP and would be marketed as such. And then you never know. It's like, man, this is great. And we come back to Guild Wars 1, we try out the PvE, we like that too. Well, then interest gets respurned again, and then ArenaNet could be in a very uncomfortable position. It's like, they like both. Well, that's not a bad position to be in, but that's going to require some resources. So that's would be my idea. If someone said, Alex, I want you to develop a new game that we could tie into Guild Wars 1, try and get that crowd back, make the business case for it, that would be my idea for it. I would call it Guild Wars Arena and market it as a PvP MOBA style game, but would use a lot of the current Guild Wars 1 infrastructure. Again, we'll have to see. We'll have to see which direction ArenaNet goes in, what NCSoft is going to come out with, what their business direction is going to be. Of course, given the restructuring, it's going to be to make some more profit, but you can't just rely on your current product. You have to make new product. You have to be in the marketplace and staying up with what the market trends are and trying to tap into that resource in order to generate revenue. Anyways, that's my idea. I'm going to kind of call it for now. I'm going to stop here for this week, and we'll go from there. And again, episodes have been about one a week now. I'm going to try and keep to that. Things have been pretty busy with life, but I haven't gone anywhere. So don't worry, guys. I'm still around, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.